Welcome back, everybody, to 357 Sex in the City podcast. We are at episode 6, yes. But today we are going to take it down a notch in terms of enthusiasm and upbeat, happy stories. We're going to talk about things that are a little bit more difficult. We're going to talk about banks and how they didn't help 357, where they should have possibly helped. The struggles that Ty and Luke went through when the money dried up from the banks and they said, you've got to get out of here. We're no longer going to support you or lend you money to continue with your business and your asset purchases. Big struggles. How did they manage that? We're also going to talk about a sad topic, deaths. There were 4 deaths, and those deaths really impacted everyone within 357, the staff, the owners, of course, the clients, and the families of the people who were affected. We're going to go deep into that, and we're going to get very emotional. In fact, I'm a bit emotional now. But let's get through this episode. You will learn a lot about 357 in the next 45 minutes. Let's get into it.
Look, I'm very passionate about this, so I'm probably going to get Luke to talk about it more. But our entire business for the whole 22 and a half years it was open was really very badly affected by the banks.
And the way we were treated was truly incredible from 2 major banks. And we're happy to sort of name them because we're no longer in that world. And
we always said we wanted to one day afterwards because we couldn't talk about it at the time.
Correct. And like obviously, you know, the way things worked out with both Westpac and ANZ, the way we were treated over that course of 20-odd years was truly a total result of being in the sex industry. And not talking about sex is going to prolong, you know, the banks not getting behind sex on premises businesses. And I think it's important to talk about that because we need to sort of, you know, bring sex into the foreground of the banks and actually let, you know, people understand that the banking world, you know, sex on premises businesses need banks to operate and we need their facilities.
And it's not a gay thing. It's
not
sex
a gay thing. No.
Nothing to do with that.
It's nothing to do with the gay thing. It was got to do with the sex thing. Yeah.
And I think if they listen to this podcast, people in the bank industry might realize that there's more to it than just sex.
Yes, and even though for us the main players were Westpac and ANZ, it involves every other bank. As Luke will explain, when we went to get a loan, we went to basically every bank and nobody would touch us. So it started off with Westpac first, Luke, if you explain about the money laundering thing.
Well, I remember when we were setting up the business, we went to Westpac first and opened up the bank accounts. And back then, like I come from a bit of a banking background, not retail. I wasn't a teller. I was in the background in accounting and stuff like that. So, but when you fill out, like back then, 20-odd years ago, you fill in, you know, what the type of business it is. And I remember opening up the bank accounts and they obviously didn't have a sex on premises venue because we were very honest from day one about what we did. So the person setting up the accounts opened it up under health and beauty or recreation or something. It was something that obviously they had to tick a box.
And remember that we had a legal proper DA certification, registered sex on premises venue. We were not anything illegal, anything underworld, nothing.
Yeah, and this is with Westpac. And
in 2000
it would have been in 2000. It was before we actually started the business because we were, you know, starting the process. So we had to get all the banking set up and transfer money in and all of that stuff. So,
because, you know, it took us 4 buildings to find 357. So this would have been 2000. Yeah.
That's exactly right. So anyway, we were traveling through, and back then we didn't have FPOS, okay, because it was a cash business. And FPOS wasn't that big, you know, 25 years ago. It wasn't sort of a major player like it is now, especially after COVID. And, you know, so we just basically had a savings account, a working account, and that was it. And we went away on holidays. It was a couple of years into the business of trading. And we get back from holidays and I go down to the PO box and open up the mail and there's all these letters from Westpac saying you've been money laundering. You've got to go within 30 days and find another bank.
We didn't even know what money laundering meant back then.
No, we had no idea. And
you had the washing machines. Maybe they thought you were
that's right. We were washing the towels and the money at the same time. Yes, that's right. Thanks, Westpac.
But anybody listening to this, like we run our business very differently because I come from a financial background and I wanted to run our business really clean and no black cash and all that other stuff. And we paid staff on the books.
Because our goal was one day to buy the building.
That's right. And you can't buy that with cash. We run it very differently. And a lot of people out there probably listening and thinking, oh, why would you do that? But you can't buy intangible assets with cash, like major assets, like a home or whatever. And we wanted to do the right thing. And I think it's important to pay tax and super. I really do. Anyway, so we go straight to the bank, Westpac. I still remember we went down to Haymarket. Because that's where the PO box was, and we went into Westpac, and
one of our favourite clients who would come in almost every day work to the bank.
He was a teller behind the bank anyway. Yeah. Anyway, we went and saw the manager at the time, and she says, "Oh, you have to leave the bank by you've got 10 days to do it," because we were halfway through the 30-day notice. And I said, "Why are you sending us out? Like, why are we? Oh, you've been money laundering." And I said, "Money laundering? What are you talking about?" Anyway. But she just leaned forward. And at that stage, we had a mortgage with Westpac, a home mortgage.
A personal. It's not personal, not business.
Nothing to do with the business. We had a personal mortgage with a home, and we had credit cards and savings accounts, personal stuff as well. And she goes, "But you can leave all the personal stuff with us. We just don't want your business."
And that's a bit rich.
And I remember Ty said,
I said to us, leaned forward, I said, "But without the business, we haven't got a house, we haven't got a credit
Who
card,
do you think
we
pays
haven't
the
got a
mortgage?
car, we haven't got anything."
That's right. And the way that we were it was unbelievable. I'll never forget it. And I actually felt dirty. For the first time of running our business, I actually felt really unclean and really dirty about running a sex on premises venue. And I just thought, this is so wrong to be treated like that.
How many years into the business was this?
It would have been 5 or 6, I would say.
So you've been with Westpac for
think?
5 or 6 years?
I think 4.
4 years.
Yeah, it was a couple of years.
We're not talking months. We're talking years.
Years of trading, like years of trading. And then like what people have to understand, when we set up 357, we sold everything. We didn't have a home. We had a car. That was the only thing that was left in our
$3,000 Falcon U.
That's all we could
and
afford.
I bought the number plate Steamy, and I put the number plate Steamy on it, and I spent $100 and got it graffitied with 357.
Of course you'd remember that, Ty.
I totally remember.
For those people who are listening, just on a side note, Ty is a car buff. He loves cars, so of course he remembers.
So I came home with my Falcon Ute, and Luke goes, "Fantastic." He goes, "It's like buying a Bell and you haven't got the bike this."
Yeah, the Bell before the bike.
Yeah. Sorry, back to the bank.
No, but
we basically had $3,000 worth of assets.
Left.
Our car.
So in a couple of years, we were able to get enough cash together to buy a mortgage, get a mortgage on a property and stuff, and I've never ever felt that bad from a bank, and I just thought, why are you doing that to us? We're not money laundering. They couldn't justify what it was for. They just said, "Oh, you got to go." So we had to scramble very quickly to look for another bank.
And please remember, we were squeaky clean. There's nothing that we're not telling you in this story.
Correct. And anyway, and it's hard to move banks. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, which everybody would probably understand. Anyway, so at that time, ANZ was sort of doing the gay ATM things. They were quite
gay TM.
Gay TMs.
It was around Mardi Gras.
It was always around Mardi Gras.
There were rainbow stickers all over.
And I just thought, let's give ANZ a go. And at one stage, when I was in finance, I actually did work for ANZ for some time, and I thought the background of the bank was quite incredible. So I thought, we'll go with ANZ. And as it turned out, they weren't any real difference. It was much the same. We opened up the bank accounts once again. There was no box to tick for us.
What were we this time? Hospitality.
Hospitality. I think we fell into hospitality.
And of course we're going, but we're a sex on business. She goes, "Just tick hospitality.
Don't tell anybody that."
And then she goes,
"We'll
"Please
put you
don't
down
say
as
that."
hospitality.
Yeah. So we went, "Oh gosh."
But that bank didn't give us credit cards for the business. They refused to. Eventually we moved our mortgages and all our personal stuff across to ANZ, but that bank refused to give us company credit cards, because we would need company credit cards, like when we went to buy products or something like that, we'd put it on the credit card. So they only would give us a debit card because of the nature of our business. And I just thought, wow, this is just so wrong on such a scale.
And that was only the beginning.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Right.
And then we slowly moved down and we got an FPOS facility. One FPOS and this is way before COVID, just way before COVID.
Was this easy to get, your FPOS facility?
Look, at that time it wasn't too hard. It was sort of at the growth of FPOS, like everybody was sort of switching over. Our business sort of run 80% cash, 20% FPOS. And then after COVID, it switched the other way. It went 80% FPOS because and then 20% cash. Because I think everybody during COVID got so used to tapping and going,
Yep.
and people don't want to
not
pay.
touching money. They thought
But
money
also
was too.
prior to COVID, like a lot of people didn't want to pay for a sex on premises venue on a credit card because their partner might not know or whatever like that.
Yes.
So a lot of people paid in cash. And so the business model changed in COVID when we come out of COVID. But after COVID, like we were coming out of COVID and we needed another FPOS machine. So I rang ANZ, yep, you have to put in an application form. And I said, why do I do that? Like I've already got an existing one. Why do I need another one? She goes, oh no, you have to do it. It's our process. I said, okay, not a problem. Anyway, a month passes. We haven't even got notification. I said, where's my FPOS? Oh, we're not giving you one. And I said, on what reasons? And she goes, oh, it's the nature of business. We don't want an FPOS facility. But I said, I've already got an FPOS facility.
I just want a second one.
I just want a second
We
machine.
wanted one on the exit, one on the entry. There was as simple as that. We couldn't keep reaching over. There wasn't anything more complicated.
And it was not about the gay thing. It was only about the sex thing. And we couldn't even get a second FPOS. So we went to Tyro, I think.
Yeah, Tyro. And
we reached out to Tyro.
We couldn't care less what you do for a living. And they gave us an FPOS machine and we had a great...
Because they make money.
We had a great
They make
relationship,
money.
yeah.
They make money, on every tap
I got
and go.
a really nice gay guy when I rang up and he goes, oh, that's fabulous. Welcome aboard. And we got our machine and that was it.
Yeah.
So Tyro is also a bank. So explain the difference between Tyro and
It's
ANZ.
some sort of a private
it's-
FPOS facility company.
They're not like a bank. They don't have. It's just they use their machine to move money from accounts to accounts.
So your accounts are still with ANZ,
Yeah,
but
still
you're
with,
using a
still
different.
with ANZ.
So just a question: you already had an FPOS facility. With
Already
ANZ.
had one.
When they said no to the second one, did you still keep the first one?
Yes, yeah, and we used to run 1 or 2 transactions a day through it just to piss them off.
and just to
I
keep
honestly
it
did.
running, just to keep it
Just to
running
piss them
because
off.
in case anything
In
happened
case
with Tyro,
something
we
went
had a
down with
backup.
Tyro. But
And
yeah,
then
we just
kept
put
it till the last
basically-
day of business,
Yeah.
and we never put any money
Yeah.
through the ANZ.
No, just put 1 or 2 transactions.
And this is of course our main part of the story now, because in 2015,
yeah,
our landlord rang us and he goes, "I'd like to sell you the building," and we've been waiting for that for a long time.
Yeah, and we'd been trading for a long time and stuff like that. And anyway, so we just thought, well, we have to get the money together to do that. So, and I won't go into the physical details, like details of what the building was bought for or sold for, but we basically had 50% deposit in cash to buy the building. And all we needed from the banks was a 50% loan.
Yep.
So there was no risk from the bank's point of view. Zero risk.
100% occupied building.
Correct.
A restaurant paying the rent downstairs and us paying the rent on 4 levels upstairs without
Correct.
any issues. No default notice and nothing
And
had
also
ever
a
been
long-term
wrong.
tenant. Both of us, both the restaurant and ourselves, have been in the building for many
15 years.
Correct. So it wasn't a short-term tenant; it was a long-term tenant on both leases. So anyway,
They said no.
the banks, all of them, said no.
When you say all of them, list them.
Every single bank.
After ANZ
said
said
Let's
no.
name them. Which ones?
all the 4 majors: Westpac, ANZ,
Commonwealth,
NAB, and CBA.
And my personal banking was with NAB. They wouldn't touch me either. And
Yeah.
then we went to Macquarie Bank. Then we went to. So the only way we could get the
well,
loan
we had
was through our broker.
Yeah, we had a broker that we'd used for many years, and he had tried as well to get the money from the banks, and he says, I just can't get the money.
Do you remember
So,
our
hold on.
accountant said, I can't go, this is going to be the easiest loan that anyone's ever got?
He goes, oh, you'll be fine.
He goes,
got
mate,
enough
you only
money."
need 10%, you're going to get the loan. He goes, the building's undervalued and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
nothing.
So let's recap this. You had 50%.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So let's just say the building
go
is
back.
worth, let's just say hypothetically, the building's worth $100 to
Yes.
buy.
Yep.
We had $50 to
Yep.
buy it.
Yep.
Or we tapped at the bank and said, can I have $50
Yes.
off you?
But this is
Zero
a
risk.
building. This is
Zero
a-
risk.
This is a 5-level building.
Yeah, it's a 5-level building
With 5 car
with a
spaces,
basement,
5
car
car parks.
spacing.
Yep.
in Chinatown, 357
Yeah.
Sussex Street, Chinatown, Sydney. You were going to buy the whole thing
Yeah.
and you had 50%
Yep.
in the bank, and every single bank said no.
Yep.
Everyone.
Yeah.
That is astounding.
Astounding.
How did you feel about that, and what did you
Once
do?
again, I felt dirty, didn't you?
I was just so angry.
I just felt dirty. I felt
and I
that
thought, why have we done the right thing for all these years?
all these years we've done the right thing, put our money away, paid tax, paid the super, done the right thing, and this is how the banks are treating us. And I could
There's
never
no other
understand.
side to this story either. Everyone is there is no other side to the story. There's nothing we're not telling you.
Yeah.
We weren't in debt. We had zero debt on our credit cards.
Yep.
We owned all our motor vehicles. We had no leases. We didn't have a single lease in
The
our
only
business.
mortgage we had
Nothing.
a mortgage, a house mortgage. That's all we had. That's
Yeah, a
it.
house mortgage. Our mortgage
That
was
was
the house was
a home-
mortgaged.
a
And
That's
a
it.
thriving business.
Yeah,
And we're
with
also
the
giving
books.
and we're also giving them the house because like we were,
Yep.
you know, our share of the house
Yeah.
was also going to go to the bank as
Yeah.
well as the building
As
for
collateral.
security. So they had a commercial building
Yeah.
in the city and they had a house we lived at the time in Roseville.
yeah,
So all of that, and they said no, and every single time it was nature of business.
Yeah.
And then I got a phone call from someone at ANZ, private.
was a very
personal phone
senior
call
person in the
from a
bank.
very, very, very senior person who was gay, who totally apologized to me, and he goes, "I'm really sorry." He said, "I want you to imagine a pile of cash as high as a roof." He goes, and it's called risk management. He goes, it's not the fact that you can't pay back your mortgage. It's a risk to our business of what other people are going to say when it goes out in the press that ANZ lends you money for Australia's largest gay
Correct.
bathhouse.
Correct.
And he also said it's got nothing to do with gay, it's got to do with sex.
It's purely a sexual
And on a
thing.
very small point, there was a business in Queensland that had she was a very nice girl. She had a small sex shop, whatever,
Yeah.
bookshop and everything. She wanted a $40,000 loan and nobody would lend her the money.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
So because what's happening inside those walls is sex,
Yep.
they won't touch
Yep.
No,
anything.
the banks just won't accept it.
Because of perception. Because if somebody finds out that ANZ or the banks have lent to a
Correct.
sex on premises venue,
Correct.
it will harm their reputation.
Correct.
Word from the ANZ. So what we had to do was go.
Well, we had to go to
called
a second-tier lender.
Yeah.
Our broker, thank God, Richard, got us a loan through Arch Finance, which they saved our life, you know. But
What's the trade-off though?
Well, the trade-off is
Massive
that you're
interest.
paying like 1 or 2, I think it was 2% above what the banks would have given us. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but on the amount of money we had to borrow, it was massive. So the repercussions from their behaviour, because we had a sex on premises venue, was so unethical. And they sit there and they, you know, in their ivory towers or whatever, and it's just what we do is sex. We actually offer a sex service to the community for people to come to. If anything, they should embrace us, not push us as filthy clients.
Once again, legal, development
Yeah.
application approved.
Yeah.
Business that employs 20 staff, opens 24 hours a day, has been running at that time for 15
Correct.
years.
But no help whatsoever
100%
from the
occupied
banks.
building, fantastic market. Every single thing ticked, every single box except for nature of business.
Yeah.
And because of nature of business, once again, we didn't get the loan.
Yeah.
We couldn't, let alone the FOS machine 7 years later.
That was a joke.
It was outrageous.
Absolute
So
joke.
we were sort of anti-bank after that.
Yeah.
And we had to survive for the next, you know, over COVID and everything, paying at massive interest rates.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
yeah, that was
So that decision cost you thousands and thousands.
Oh,
of
hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Hundreds of thousands
Hundreds
of
of
dollars.
thousands.
Yeah.
Like
But-
hundreds.
But you battled on.
Yeah.
And what if you could give a message now to ANZ, Westpac, Macquarie, Commonwealth, etc., what would that message be now?
shame. You should be ashamed.
Yeah.
And I do think, look, with Sauna X now, they seem to be having more luck with the banks. And
Yes, they are.
So I would say it's
Yeah.
possibly changed.
It could have.
And I really
Yeah.
hope so. So if all of any
Yeah.
CEOs or any CFOs or whatever are listening right now, have a think about what you're doing to this business.
But also, it pushes what we do for a living underground. It makes it feel dirty
And
when you're not accepted.
underworldy. And it shouldn't be underworldy.
Correct. Like we were running a sex on premises venue. Embrace it. There's no difference to what we do than what a motel does. Do you think people are not having sex at the Marriott or the Sheraton on the Park? Of course they're having sex in the rooms. You know, they might be having affairs behind their partners' backs. So there's no difference between our business models. But the way we were treated, I've never felt dirty other than the banks making me feel dirty in 25 years worth of trading.
I went to a Meriton building just a few days ago.
Yep.
It was an after party from a wedding. It was wonderful. And in the room on the ceiling was a mirror.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, mirror
Thanks, our mirror room.
I know that place.
We had a mirror
yeah.
room on level 3, same as that.
So Meriton is definitely a sex on
Correct.
premises
Correct.
venue, but they just don't have a license.
Correct.
And they can tick
Correct.
the hospitality box.
Exactly.
Correct.
That's a good message to them. And I hope that if anybody from those banks is listening, listen back to episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and hear how a place like 357 was actually helping the community, doing the right thing. And you also donated a lot of time and money to places like Acon, did you not?
Yes,
Correct,
but they
yeah.
don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
Well, they should. And this is where I think, Ty, you spoke to me once and you were livid about ANZ's contribution to, or advertising around gay TMs. We support the gay. And you said but us, no. And yes, again, it's not a gay thing. It's a sex thing.
Correct.
Doesn't matter.
Correct.
The two combined should have meant that they said, okay, look, we'll look a little bit deeper into this and support you.
Yeah. Can I I'll just tell you a story about that.
Please.
I went to a function. It was the Archie Ball, and it was hosted by ANZ. ANZ were the fundraisers, and I went with my friend Margaret, and she was connected sort of in the banking world to them, and we sat around a bunch of, we're on tables at, those type of gala things, having dinner, and she goes, "You're sitting next to a person that runs the biggest gay sex venue in Australia, and all of you said no to him in regards to a home loan. You should be ashamed."
A home loan or
the mortgage loan. Sorry, for the building. Yep. Sorry. And I was just, I didn't know she was going to say that. Anyway, and I just sat there and went, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you've done that." And we got up and left. And I've never felt like, she was so incredible what she did, but she sort of brought it into realization in their world. Obviously those people sitting around the table weren't involved in that decision.
But they were very important people.
But they were very important people in the bank. But that's like, until people talk to them, they don't know.
Yeah.
Like, they're sitting in their office. They've got 100.
I think they imagine it's like we've got gold teeth and like we're some sort of I don't know what,
like puff daddies or whatever.
They don't imagine us being just two normal men.
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy.
And I was so impressed with what she did at that gala event, and then we just got up and left after what she said. And she goes, "You should be ashamed of what you've done."
Do you think that made a change? Do you think that might have...
Look, I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe
all
I don't
of
know.
those things made a change. Because I do believe, the owners of Sauna X are not having the issues that we have.
Yeah.
So
that would be nice.
But also time has changed. Like in 20-odd years, 25 years, the banking world changes as well. Things, especially after COVID, things changed a lot.
And Glenn looks more like a puff daddy.
Yeah, than you do. Yeah, Glenn's the owner of Sauna X. But so it maybe it has changed. But I just I've moved on. But it's just sad that they made us feel so dirty.
Yes, what a sad story. We told you that this episode wasn't going to be as upbeat as the others, but what an interesting story. I'd like to now move us through to the next part of this podcast, which is a very tough topic. At 357, you had some amazing times, you had some fun times, you had some difficult times. And amongst the difficult times, there were some deaths.
Yeah.
I remember you talking to me about them. Could you take us through what happened and also the emotion and the difficulties that came around this?
It's a very hard, as we said, we wanted this one to be a little bit more serious, this episode.
Well, I think it was good to join both topics together.
It was, the two things that affected us the most, the banking and the deaths.
It's not an up episode. It's sort of
so yes, you can imagine we served about 3 million people in the time that we were open. And we had, out of those 3 million people, 4 people died inside
the venue.
Inside our 357 venue. So those deaths had affected us in a terrible way. And I'm just relieved that there was no deaths for the last, I think, 5 years, Luke.
Yeah. And I always remember you actually pointed out after one of the people had passed, we can't do these type of numbers every week without something happening.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
That's exactly. It's like a probability thing. And it's the same.
People have heart attacks.
Motels and things like that would have the same situations. So they have, numerous amounts of people come through the doors. Eventually something has to happen. Yep. And it's incredible how it affects everybody. Yes. It affects the staff, it affects the clients, even the AMBOs. It's an incredible thing that happens. And it's a very hard thing that happens.
Mm-hmm. The last one and most recent one, we had a staff member who tried everything to bring the person back to life.
Correct. He broke
all his ribs while he was trying to do the resuscitation.
CPR,
He did all the CPR in the correct way, and the person still had passed away.
Yeah.
So, and that really affected the staff member.
And I think he used the defib as well, but we couldn't save him.
It is. So we had sort of really what was three kind of heart attacks and one person who fell.
Yeah.
So take us through the first one.
The very first death?
Yes.
It was on the stairs.
Yeah.
So what happened? How did that day start off?
He carried his push bike up our stairs.
Okay.
And the guy
just to point out the staircase, it's an L shape. So when you walk up, there's a hard right angle to go up to the second level of stairs to the foyer.
Ever had anyone take this? Never in the whole, and never did again.
And it was very late at night. Like he come in way up, like 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, he was just having a bit of fun with a friend of his that they picked up, and they were coming in to use our facility late at night together. His friend dared him to ride this down the staircase.
Yeah, and he was, we'd never seen him before. He wasn't a regular client.
So he came up with his bicycle, carried it up the staircase, right? At 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yep. Got to the top.
We're lucky we got such good surveillance, so we got everything on surveillance.
Yeah.
And then he was dared to go back down on his bike.
Yeah.
So he rode the bike back down the steep staircase.
He was also a very tall man to start. Yep. Before he got on his bike, he was actually really tall. Like he was actually a very tall gentleman. And that on top of the bike made him incredibly tall because it wasn't a standard bike. It was like a racer, like one of those racing bikes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this the best I can from my memory.
Yeah, and he come down and he got to the first platform and he hit the wall and then he fell backwards.
That's on the angle where the staircase turns around with 90 degrees.
So he was on his bike on top of a staircase. Yeah. And he was maybe, I don't know, 190 centimetres.
He was taller than us.
So he fell down and broke his neck on the staircase.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
It was horrific. That was our very first death, and we didn't, we
had no experience.
No experience. Yeah. And the staff member that had to deal with it was just horrific on him.
So when it happens at that time in the morning, you are obviously not there.
No.
Neither of you. So take our listeners through the process. So the staff, what happens then?
We had a very strict protocol, even though it had never been used. But the staff member did a fantastic job.
Oh, brilliant job.
So he rang immediately ambulance and fire, and on the other phone, he'd lift us up and goes, emergency, we've just called an ambulance. So Luke and I went straight in. Yeah.
So you drove in from your home.
So we were at Artarmon. We lived at Artarmon.
Yeah, at that stage we were at Artarmon.
So we were in minutes. Artarmon was a great place to live, really close to town.
Yep.
We were there in 10 minutes. So as we pulled up, the ambulance was already there and everything else. And
when it's serious, when there's more than one ambulance, there was multiple ambulance, it's serious. Yes. That's how they operate. Like when we pulled up, we went, "Oh my gosh, there's several ambulance."
But they didn't say he died there. They were still trying to resuscitate him. As
they kept him alive. They kept him alive,
okay.
And I think he passed. He passed on the way to hospital. So
and there we had to cope with the press because then the press was out the front.
Yeah.
Particularly Channel 10, I remember.
Yeah.
And I could hear from the window upstairs, and he goes, "Oh mate, it's a slow day. This one's got legs."
News story.
So I didn't know what that meant, right?
Yeah.
But so I rang a friend of mine. He goes, "Oh, it means they're going to put it in the news," and we were in the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah.
Yep.
Straight away in the morning, everything, a man dies in sex club stairs.
Yeah.
Right.
And no one's there and all this. It was just a whole lot of lies.
Yeah.
They were saying that there was no one there to respond to them and whatever else. And that was really awful. Yeah.
We'd never dealt with it as well. We'd never dealt with something this traumatic inside the venue, and we didn't know how to handle it.
What year was this? Do you remember?
Oh, gosh.
2010.
Oh, do you?
2010.
I remember
Right.
it, It's still online. If you Google it, it's still there.
Yeah.
Right. So then
That was our first death after 9 years. Yeah.
After 9 years. And how did you, both of you and the staff member, how did you deal with that?
I think it was 2010. Sorry, I got it right.
Well, my first reaction was to protect the staff member because it was so horrific to see. And so we were very lucky. We had another person working for us at the time, and his partner did some psych work.
Yep. Psychologist?
Yes. Yep. So we got him some help, and he saw him for quite some time, and I think he was an incredible help. And we used Peter several times over the time of 357 for different issues, and he was truly incredible. And that was our first concern was the staff member that was affected that had to deal with it because it's not normal. It's not a normal thing to see at your workplace. And it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific for him.
So that was the first death experience. You mentioned that there were a few.
Yeah.
The second one was an 84-year-old gentleman, and he basically had a heart attack in one of the sex areas. And that was really terrible.
Yeah.
And so when I was the first person, I had to let myself into the cubicle with him, and because I thought there was a whole lot of dramas going on. So I opened up the door, and he had a big cut down his chest where he'd obviously had his heart surgery, and his eyes had bulged out, and I knew he was gone straight away.
How did you find out? How did you know to go into that room? Did somebody come
it was a cubicle, and a client came up and said, "There's something wrong with the guy that I'm having fun with."
Yeah.
So we went up there,
and I have to just say, the police and ambulance and fire, everybody that works when there's a death, is absolutely incredible what they do. Like, you have no idea. Like, I'd never done this before, and to deal with something like that, they just walk in and they help you and they take control of the situation, and
so that one was less traumatic because there was no CPR, there was none of that.
No, yeah, he had passed.
He was gone. He was cold. When I found him, he was cold. Right.
Yeah,
you mentioned in one of our previous episodes about police rescue and getting somebody out of your venue was difficult. How did it work with this one? Because I assume he would have been on level.
It was again police rescue, and they took him out on a board.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah. He was pretty sort of rigid.
Yeah, sure. So shout out, I suppose, to police rescue, because that's not easy work.
No, just incredible.
And then the next one was another hard
on level. He was in the chill out room. And we found him.
Yeah, we found him at, when we shut the venue at 6 o'clock in the morning. We were calling out for a locker number.
Yeah.
And we found him in the chill out room. Yeah. So he was passed.
Yeah.
Was that a heart attack as well? May I ask?
Yes, it was also a heart attack.
Yeah.
So you see, we do have some elderly people that come in, and I suppose I think if I was going to have a heart attack and I want to pass away, it would be not a bad place to pass away.
I found that particular death quite hard, that one, up on level 4. And I'll never forget the police officer. It was the female. She came over and she was talking to me, and she goes, "Do you imagine how lucky he was?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "He didn't die alone. He died in a place where, he was surrounded by his like-minded friends." And that was a hard one.
Yeah, that was a hard one. And then the fourth one died on level 2. So,
yeah.
That was, we still don't really know what the cause of death was.
Well, I think he had a heart attack, and that's where they were doing the CPR and the defib on him to try to bring him back.
That really affected the staff because
and once again, Peter helped us with that. So it was a hard time.
Difficult times. You mentioned Ty, and I just want to go back to that. You mentioned that at 6 o'clock you shut, and you said while you were calling out the locker number.
Yeah.
So can you explain that process? Because that process was also not just shut the business to clean it for 3 hours and reopen at 9 o'clock or whatever it was. There was also another reason. This was a reason, so you could know who was in there or if there was any issues.
Yeah.
Take us through how that happened that day.
We always have a maximum stay of 20 hours.
Yep.
And people can come and go as much as they want, but then we start calling out the locker.
Okay.
But also, because we clean all the rooms, we know that, we know if there's someone in one of the rooms. He'd gone in there in the early hours of the morning to sleep before we shut.
Yep.
And passed away.
And so to close the venue, we did all the announcements, close the venue, turn the light.
Couldn't find him.
Couldn't find locker number, whatever he was, say 20. So they're calling out locker number 20, locker number 20. They looked through the whole venue. They got up to the top floor. Yep. And they found him in the resting room.
In the chill out area.
And so the staff rang me straight away and they rang me this time before the ambulance because the guy was cold again. Yeah. And my staff member was in tears going, the guy's cold. I can hear him slapping on the face going, wake up.
Yeah, trying to wake him up.
So I said, you've got to call the ambulance. He's gone.
Yeah.
So that was that. And that was it was always hard on all of us.
Or hard on everybody. We had a process. If anybody come to 357 that remembers this, on the weekends, part of our job, Ty's, myself, all the managers like Glenn or Stuart, or even Mintron, we had the process back as far as Mintron, when Mintron was helping us. We would page locker numbers. You'd hear that, if you're a patron, you'd hear, we'd come across and say, paging locker number 57, locker 57, your overall time's expired, come down or just repay. It wasn't from a financial point of view, it was from a health and safety check. And we were checking to make sure they were okay.
And by also cleaning, we'd have to get into every single room on every single clean in case there was somebody who was sick or passed out in one of the rooms.
Yeah.
That's how we kept it recirculating all the time.
Yeah.
So it was we have an amazing system. We had a really great system.
The till system sort of indicated how long somebody had been in for and if we had an issue there. And we did.
The people that got angry with us when we knock on the door and say, is everyone okay? We need to open up the door and check. We did that for a reason because we were checking on your welfare. Yeah. It wasn't for any other reason. It wasn't to disturb you having sex.
Like so often they'd get angry at you. You'd be knocking at the door. Are you okay? Are you okay?
They just wouldn't answer.
And they're in there having some fun. And it's like, F off, leave me alone.
Yes.
It's like, no, I need to find out, are you okay in there? Because,
And if they both answer us, we wouldn't
That's
open
right.
the door,
You go on to the next door.
You go on to the next door. When we do that, that's how the business ran 24 hours a day, basically.
I think people are starting to realize it wasn't just, hey, come in, have sex, that's it, and leave.
We looked
and the
after
business
everybody.
was simple to run. There was a complexity behind there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A question is in my mind here: when you set up that closing time for and the locker system and PA system to call out people, did you have that in mind, or did that sort of naturally fall in? That safety, the fact that it creates a safe environment, and you can find out that somebody's had an issue, or did you think about that when you were setting it up? Or
Probably
did it sort
not.
Of just,
no, the calling out the lockers actually was stimulated from the guy that we found in the chill out room upstairs.
Right.
Because he had passed away several hours prior and we didn't know about it.
Yep.
And that was unacceptable. So that whole calling out locker keys was stimulated from his death. So after that, that's part of the housekeeping.
Yeah, we spent the next decade and a half always calling
paging numbers, paging lockers,
What an incredible story, because anybody who went to that 357 would remember the voice over the PA saying, paging locker number 69. Please come down, repay or just leave.
Yeah.
And yet we never called out if a client came down and said, can you please, like if you came to the club
I'm
with
looking
Ricky,
for my partner.
And Ricky came to the window and goes, look, I'm looking for my partner. He's in locker 50. Can you page him? We'd always go, no way.
We never paged anybody unless their time had expired. That was the only, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And of course, no names.
Never.
So it was all very discreet. Yeah.
Anything that you'd like to add on that? On the deaths at 357, I think it's lovely that we are talking about it, paying respect to it.
We humbly remember all those 4 people.
Yeah. So and also the people that were affected by it, obviously their families as well. Like, to lose a loved one inside a sex venue would be very hard. Also, like one of the people that passed, I won't say which one, but their family didn't understand or know that they were gay. And to find out that they had passed in a sex on premises, a gay sex on premises, would have been incredibly hard on their family.
And I do want to say one thing. One of the older gentlemen, their daughter came in.
Yes.
And she goes, I don't understand I don't understand this. She goes, it's my father. He was in his 80s. Yeah. And he just said he used to come into the city on a Friday to be with friends. And I put my arm around her. I said, he did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, she just couldn't understand. She goes, my father was having sex. And I said, no, not necessarily. I said, he just came in here because he wanted to
meet his mates.
Like-minded people. I said, maybe he could never come out in his whole life. And then she told me that her mother had died 10 years ago and every Friday he'd come into the city and he was coming to 357.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to a bathhouse than just sex. Yeah.
That is, I'm going to take a break. Sorry, we just had to take a quick break because we were all getting a little bit emotional, especially me.
And now it's time to lift things up.
I think we should lift things up. That was getting quite deep. So, Ty, over to you.
Okay, so I'm going to tie one of the deaths into a story. That was the early morning one. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, there were still a few people in the venue. Yep. And what happens when someone dies in a venue is the police treat it as a crime scene. So they took some people's details down, and 2 of the people that were at the venue were a couple that had met in Melbourne and they'd come to Sydney for their sex times.
But what had happened prior to this, when the police were in taking their details, the press all turned up out the front of the building. And I'm talking cameras, crew, journalists.
Once again, because as I said earlier, it was a quiet day. They had nothing on, so they decided to make a story out of this.
Correct.
Even another time it might not have been a story.
And I'm talking like 50 people. This is on Sussex Street at sort of 6 a.m. in the morning. There's all these people. It's like, oh no, we've got to deal with
the headlines, death on sex club stairs. So this couple goes, please help me. Oh my God, how do we get out of here? You have no idea. And like they were mortified, right?
We had a handful of people.
So I said, look, I've got my Hilux down in the basement underneath. I said, and the roller doors will come up and I'll just drive out and no one will even know who's in the car. So
because
I
the
folded
lift
up
went right through the building from
into the
the sex areas right into the basement where we could get access to the car park.
So even though my Hilux had 357 written all over it, I put them on the back. So I lifted up the back seat, as you know, on a Hilux, you can flip it up. They lay on the floor.
We put
blankets over them. And they were so
yeah.
happy. I said, I'll get you out and I'll drive you down to Central. Don't worry about us. If they follow us, I'll get you anyway. Just keep driving, right? So they just needed to go to the airport. No one knew they were gay. They were totally in love and they'd only meet at 357 once a month, right? And they even went to Sydney to stay anonymous, not even to Melbourne.
Yep.
Anyway, and then there was another guy who goes, I've got to get out as well. He was very gay and he had lipstick on and all this sort of thing. So anyway, so he sat in the front seat because he didn't care if anyone saw him or not. I had tinted windows. Anyway, so I put the roller door up with the electric thing and the cameras are all there and they're all
So you're
ready.
driving out now?
I'm driving out now.
Yeah.
And anyway, they're lying in the back and he puts his electric window down. I didn't lock the windows.
This is the guy sitting next to you with the lipstick?
He puts his head out the window and goes, Madonna, Madonna. And he's using all his arms.
The car window.
Like this, like they're all filming him. And
he's waving at all the camera crew.
Once again.
Oh my gosh.
Totally felt sick.
Less is more, less is more.
Oh my gosh. And I floored it and drove up the street. That was a really, really bad moment.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him. I said, what
Madonna's
are you
left the
doing?
building.
And he goes, Madonna's left the building as we drove out. It was awful, right? So that was the whole day was the most awful day, one of the most awful days of my life.
Yeah.
So what happened? So you were mentioning before when you were taking a break, emotional break, that what happened to your numbers the next day?
That was what the most amazing thing was. I said, Luke, we're going to be dead for weeks because
it's going to affect our business.
You know how awful. Anyway, all the stories. It was on the 10 a. It was on the 7 a.m.
It was
news
on the
Channel
news.
10.
Yeah,
it was
on the news.
Anyway, at 10 o'clock in the morning, they started to come in, and by 2 o'clock, we'd done almost a record day. It was one of the quietest days.
We have to come
in
and see where the man died and all this other stuff.
And he goes, I saw you on the news. I never knew that you were here. I'm so happy today. Anyway, so we ended up doing like 70 more people than what we've ever done on that day at lunch. Yeah. So it didn't affect the business at all. It actually made everyone want to come in.
Any publicity is good publicity. And
it looked like that. Yeah. It really looked like that. Yeah. And Luke, if you can tell the story about the motorbike, I'd love you to tell that story.
Well, this is I just want to lighten the episode on the podcast.
We are about to finish this one. So.
Well, it's been a hard one. So, but this is quite a light story. Where the building was, it was on Sussex Street, and the corner crossroad was Liverpool and Sussex. And Liverpool coming down was quite steep. And this one particular day, it was just at the end of lunchtime. We had a lunchtime special that ran from 10 o'clock in the morning through to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And you could come in at that time, I think it was $20 or something. Anyway, it was just on 2 o'clock, and what had actually happened, a motorbike, not a client, just a motorbike, come flying down Liverpool Street, chucked a left onto Sussex, but come off the motorbike and rolled into the venue, the front windows of our venue.
Basically head to toe across the entrance.
He survived. He didn't die. Okay, but the Ambos turn up. They're working on him, and the entrance to our venue, he was in the entrance of the...
So he had landed...
He had rolled.
In the entrance to the sauna.
He had just come off the motorbike.
What are the chances of that?
And just rolled across the walkway into the entrance. Anyway... The clients, because the 2 o'clock entry was finishing, it was like 2 o'clock, they just kept on walking over him. And the Ambos are trying to work on him, and the Ambos are going, what's going on? Mate, I'm trying to get this guy, into hospital, blah, 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 blah. And they just kept on coming. They just didn't stop.
So it was that day we realised that nothing was going to affect the business.
Yeah.
Somebody being worked on at the entrance.
Working on,
if they're horny, they're going to climb over them, open up the doors and go up there.
Yeah.
It's just,
and people were coming in because it's a cheaper price at lunchtime.
Yeah, they had to get in before 2 o'clock because the tills, if you got in at 10 past 2, you didn't get the lunchtime special. You had to pay full price. So they obviously had to get in, step over a man, in the foyer. It doesn't matter. I'm going in for my $20.
Yes, if you're horny, nothing will stop you.
Nothing.
And if you can a good deal and good sex, let's do it.
Stops you.
Well, thank you for sharing those 2 stories from the book.
We're sorry that it was a bit heavy, but we did want to be honest with you, so we have to do the good with the bad and the bad with the good.
Yeah, I think it's important, that we cover those particular topics, as hard as they are. So, yeah.
There were some fun times and also some sad times, some difficult times. We're going to continue covering these in our next episodes. This was episode 6, which is coming to an end now. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Richard
Thank you,
and Ricky.
Richard.
We haven't decided yet what we're going to do in our next episode. That's going to come through possibly a nice dinner or lunch together. We can discuss what we're going to do. We are looking at bringing in some guests. So that may happen on our next episode. But stay tuned and you'll hear from us soon.
And thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us too.